Maz, welcome to the Weekend Briefing. Welcome to Australia.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I love it out here.
I want to talk about your personal journey, be at first for Australian audiences who may not be familiar with it. So you came to the US as a kid during the Iranian Revolution. Why did your family leave and why America?
Well, my father was a successful businessman in Iran, and he had a lot of friends who were in the government. He had a lot of connections, and I think when the Islamic Revolution was happening, there was a fervor where anybody who was associated with the Shah's government, but my father wasn't in the government, but he just had friends who were. So anybody who was successful, um, their lives could be at risk. So my father was on business in New York, and he told my mother to come out and bring me and my sister. And we thought we are going to come out and stay for a couple of weeks. We thought that the protests would quiet down and we'd go back. But I always say we packed for 2 weeks and we stayed for 47 years.
Yeah, wow. That's like reusing the same underwear quite a bit.
Yes, I still have the same underwear from when I was 6 years old.
So you studied political science. We're going to fast forward a few years. You studied political science and Italian, which is an interesting kind of merger. Was that your way of preparing to like debate dictators and seduce them over espresso?
Yes, no, I was inspired by the Roman Empire, and I wanted to learn it all in the proper language. No, political science was a major I picked because I thought I was going to go to law school because that's what my immigrant parents wanted.
Of course
Matter of
they
fact,
did.
of course they did,
Yeah.
and when I told my mother that I was not going to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be a comedian, she said, "You can just be a lawyer and you can tell jokes in court." Like she was still negotiating.
That's the best.
Um, exactly. And so that was my political science. And then while I was at college, I studied abroad in Italy for a year because I'd fallen in love with the Italian language. It's really a beautiful
Mm.
language. And so I got a chance to go to Italy for a year. I had an Italian girlfriend that didn't speak any English, so my Italian was really good
Yeah.
by the time I left. And now when I go into Italian restaurants, I've been doing it all over Australia. Anytime they're Italian, I start practicing my Italian. So.
And what's it like these days?
There's a lot of, in Italian, when you say, how do you say, come si dici, come si dici, come si dice, come si dice,
Yeah.
which is, how does one say? So it feels like my vocabulary has come down a lot. There's a lot of like, allora, there's a lot of pauses and
Yeah.
M's and ums.
Okay. So going well. Um, so as you said, you were doing your PhD in political science, but at what point did you decide, you know, given I'm always racially profiled, I'm going to try my hand at being underpaid for making people laugh about it?
Absolutely, and I'm happy that you know that we start out very underpaid. When you first start doing stand-up comedy, the clubs like the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, they would pay you $15 for 15 minutes. So it's
Mm.
like you need a day job because you're not going to
Yep.
be able to pay any rent. But I was a big fan of comedy since I was a kid. When I was around 10 years old or so in Northern California, where I grew up, I first discovered Eddie Murphy and then would watch Saturday Night Live, and then I would watch all the other comedians, Rodney Dangerfield special. And so I was a big fan of comedy before I decided to become a comedian. And then, like I said, I decided to go on stage in the seventh grade. There was a junior high school musical, and I auditioned for it. And I got on stage, and I really liked being on stage. And the director even pointed out, she was like, "You're really good. You can do this." So my parents would come to the shows, and she would say, "He's got that, the acting bug. He's got the bug." And my parents would say, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And then we get in the car, and my,
Like,
my dad would be
no.
like, "She's crazy. Don't listen to her. Don't you're not gonna, get rid of the bug." So I'd wanted to do it. I'd wanted to do it my whole life, and I kept. The truth is, that's why I'm so much of an advocate for anyone who has found their passion. And I tell parents all the
Mm.
time, I go, if you have a child who says, I like to paint, I like to climb rocks, whatever it is, just encourage them because, it's hard to find that passion. And when you found
Yeah.
that passion, it will not leave you alone. And thank God that when I was in my mid 20s, I finally had the realization that you live once. So you got to live for yourself, not for your parents.
There was a reel that caught my attention on your Instagram. It was a throwback to 2005. You're on a late night show, I believe, and you're talking about how people from Iran make themselves more palatable.
We say we're Persian. It sounds a lot nicer and exotic and confuses Americans, you know. We're always like, no, I'm not Iranian. No, I am Persian. Like the cat. Meow. I am the cat. Meow. I am not axis of evil. No. I am Persian, like the rug. I am soft. Hello.
So that was obviously 20 years ago. Is that as relevant then as it is now in terms of the political palatability of being from Iran? I'm just for your background, my family's from Lebanon.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as a Lebanese person, it feels like what we said 20 years ago is even more relevant today.
I know, right? Just when we thought things were getting a bit better, we're under the illusion things were maybe getting a bit better.
In comedy, they say don't do topical material because it'll age out. You got to do evergreen material that can last for years and years. Well, being Iranian-American, all this stuff has been evergreen now for 50 years. It seems like it's not going away, and I would be beyond ecstatic if we found a way to, bring peace. And I could go on and do jokes about my family.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if you had the luxury of just making jokes about your balls and how you hate your mother-in-law?
You know what? I do balls jokes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay, good for you. Good for you.
Yes, and I actually like my mother-in-law. But I will say this to you. I jokingly say I wish I were Swedish. I do. I say if I were, because when you're Swedish, you tell people you're Swedish, they go, oh, that's great. IKEA, meatballs, that's all they get, And you as Lebanese, me as an Iranian, I think we have a lot more to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. So from that clip in 2005, then fast forward a decade or so to 2016, you perform at the White House and you introduce Michelle Obama, which is obviously a huge moment. Like, what kind of comedian would get Trump's invite now or be there to invite Trump?
I can tell you what kind of comedian won't get a Trump invite right here.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny because for years when I would go to Washington, D.C., I would perform at the Kennedy Center. And I'm going to be going back to Washington, D.C. this year. And before Trump even won, we had some issue with the Kennedy Center, so we ended up, booking another venue in the D.C. area. And then once Trump won and made himself the CEO of the Kennedy Center, I told my agents and managers, I go, thank God we did not do the deal with them, because I'm 90-some-odd% sure that they would have taken me off the schedule, because all you got to do is watch my 2017 Netflix special, Immigrant, where I talk and make fun of him a lot. So I don't know. Well, we saw Tony Hinchcliffe, who's actually a friend of mine. He was the guy who performed at that big rally. So I guess that's the Trump comedian. I don't know. I have no idea.
You mentioned your show Immigrant on Netflix, but just in recent weeks, you were recognized as top 20 immigrant by the Carnegie Institute. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a very unexpected surprise, because if you look at the list, so the Carnegie Foundation, I guess every year in honor of their namesake, Andrew Carnegie, who was an immigrant from, I think, somewhere in it was either Ireland or Scotland or somewhere there. In honor of him, they do it every year. They pick 20. They call it Great Immigrants, I believe. And I was chosen this year. And then I look at the list, and it's like, this person, Nobel laureate, and this person is a billionaire tech entrepreneur. And then it's like, this guy tells jokes. So I guess they want to have one or two light characters in the middle of it all.
Well, you now have even more attention on you as an immigrant with this award, which no doubt is both something to be proud of, but are you also like looking over your shoulder that ICE now might be tapping it?
It's so funny you say that. When it came out, I had some people say that. They go, oh, great, this is just a list for ICE to deport people.
Yeah.
I actually did a show the other day, and I did a show in Hermosa Beach, California, and my audiences seem to be tend to be very immigranty. There's Iranians and Lebanese and Asian and Indian and Pakistani, and then there's
Mm.
obviously the white people from that country as well. But at one point in the show, I said, "Oh my God!" I go, "Can you imagine?" Like I go, "This is like a fantasy for ICE. Like they could just walk. They're probably outside waiting. They're going, there's a room full of them. We could just deport all of them." Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad.
So, as well as obviously using your platform to make people laugh, there's political commentary. You've also used your platform quite powerfully, especially during the Women Life Freedom protests that was sparked in 2022. Mahsa Amini, her death in police custody. As a comedian, like how do you draw that line between humor and heartbreak, and also the responsibility of having a social platform to advocate for those who don't have the voice that you have?
Yeah, I think in my mind, I kind of think like, who am I to say something? Meaning like, who am I to have people listen to me? Like, are people going to listen to me? So when I decide to say something serious, I'm always a little hesitant because I also don't want to preach. And so I can only, social media is relatively new, the past 10, 15 years or so. So there was a time where you were a comedian or you were a politician or you were an activist or you were whatever. And sure, causes would come along that you would lend your name to, but you never felt like you had to stand in front of a camera and speak about it. And so really during the Mahsa Amini protest, I think I really was doing a lot of talking to the camera and just posting things. And I try to really I always say I'm on the side of the people.
Yeah.
Whether it's in Iran or whether it's in America or wherever it is, I'm on the side of the people. Whether it's in Gaza, I'm on the side of the people. And so that's where my heartbreak comes because, I'm a human being like everybody else. So I see what everyone's seeing. And just because I'm supposed to be funny all the time doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'm going to be funny all the time. Now that said, that's your social media part. The part on stage, you got to be careful on stage. If you're going to talk about serious stuff on stage, you need to have a punchline coming soon because
Yeah.
the audience is there for laughs. And so yes, you can be serious for a little bit, but bring me a punchline so that I can just breathe and have a release.
One of the platforms, notorious for cultivating comedians, is the late night comedy show in the US. You've been on a bunch: James Corden, Jay Leno, The Late Show with Craig Ferguson, The Colbert Report. How significant is it for a comedian to get a call and invited on one of those programs?
There was a time when it could make you, right? So
Yeah.
when Johnny Carson was having his program watched by tens and 20 million, several million people every night, they say back in those days, if you did a set and you did well, it could launch your touring career.
Yeah.
Now you don't get as many eyeballs on your performance. Where you do get the eyeballs is where you get to post it on your social media or
Yeah.
elsewhere, and hopefully it goes viral. And also, I've been on the Colbert late night with Stephen Colbert 4 times now, and it's just you feel like, first of all, you're dealing with top writers, you're dealing with a top host. I mean, he's so sharp and so smart and so funny, and so you just feel like you're elevated. You kind of feel for those 7 minutes that you're on the show, you're like, oh, I've arrived, and then you leave the theater and you're like, oh, okay, I got to get an Uber, go do more stand-up comedy in a comedy club. But it's a great feeling, and it feels nice. It's like you're getting a tap on your shoulder and going, hey, yeah, we're acknowledging what you've done, and we feel like you could play with the big boys. So it's a really good feeling.
Is there a sense that this may be indicative of things to come? Like obviously with CBS deciding not to renew that show, presumably it's a financial decision, whether or not it has the same kind of eyeballs and advertising power that it used to. Am I being catastrophic? I am a journalist. We tend to be a little bit fatalistic about whether this is an indication of what's to come.
Well, listen, there's so much happening between social media, and then AI, and whose job is safe, whose job isn't safe. And so, yes, if you look at it just purely financially, it's not as lucrative as it used to be.
Yes.
But we know in this case, there was definitely politics behind it, because the truth is they could have gone to Stephen Colbert and said, hey, can we shoot it for less? Would you take a pay cut? Would you
Yeah.
work with a smaller staff? Is there a way to do 3 shows a week instead of 5 shows a week? Jon Stewart is now just doing 1 show a week, and the others are on there. So there's ways to be creative, and I feel that if they did not feel the pressure to please Trump, that they would have at least started a conversation with Colbert and then allowed Colbert to say, you know what, guys, it's too much work. I need time for my family. I can't do this. But the fact that then the way that they did it, it's really just, it's very disheartening. And I, have really been an advocate of, like, you got to stand up to this tyranny, because that's what
Yes.
we see in authoritarian states.
Yeah.
And now it's not the authoritarian doing the censoring, but it's the market doing
Doing
the
it for them.
censoring to
Yeah.
please the authoritarian, which is
Yeah.
almost worse. It's like, I feel like we're living in a Russian oligarchy or something. So, yeah, I'm happy that South Park did that very funny cartoon making
Yeah.
fun of it.
Yeah.
I know that Jimmy Kimmel continues to. I know that a lot of people continue to. I did my little version on my own Instagram page of just making fun of Trump, and I think if we want to keep our democracy, we got to stop it somewhere.
So when Israel started bombing Iran too, a few weeks ago, and Trump was supporting it, for a few weeks the world was very anxious about how this would play out. People were like, World War III, is this going to blow up? But not so much you. Let's take a listen.
I don't trust any of the leaders. I don't trust the Netanyahu, Khamenei, Trump, none of them. Like, they got us close. First of all, like, they're all sociopaths, okay? Like, Netanyahu's name sounds like a euphemism for someone who's crazy. Right? You're like, I don't know if he's nuts, but he's definitely a little Netanyahu, a little Netanyahu. He's a little Netanyahu for sure, that guy's a fucking little Netanyahu. Then you got the supreme leader of Iran. He says he's got a direct line to God. His name is Khamenei. You guys can't say it. Khamenei. Khamenei. Doesn't sound like someone who's got a direct line to God. It sounds like a dish at a Chinese food restaurant. Let me get a Khamenei chicken and a Netanyahu beef. And I'll take a Trump shrimp, please. Thank you very much.
Well, firstly, I think I can say Khamenei. I think I'm one of the few people that is able to say.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Khamenei? Why are we...
It's actually kind of hard. It's Khamenei. Khamenei.
Khamenei.
Yeah, the problem is the previous supreme leader was Khomeini,
Oh.
and then this one's Khamenei. So their names are so close. It would be like if after Trump we had Trump, and you'd be
Yeah,
like, who
right.
is it?
I just wish
Right, so-
I wish dictators had more variations in their names to make it easier
They
for people
really
like
got
us.
it. They really got to work on that.
But really, what was it like then to, how concerned were you? Not, only for the state of the world, but, for also presumably friends and family.
Yeah, I was very concerned. I will be the first to say that I know that, the regime in Iran is brutal to its people. We saw that with the Mahsa Amini situation and the protests that happened, and political prisoners and all kinds of stuff. And there's no room for dissent. And it's an authoritarian state. I'll be the first one to say that. But I don't feel that attacking them and bombing them is going to expedite them leaving. And the problem is, as we both know, the amount of collateral damage that can happen and the amount of lives that are lost can be, high numbers.
Yeah.
And so just seeing those first few days and seeing reports of civilians and others who happened to be in the buildings that they were taking out and were being killed, I knew right away, because the Iranian diaspora is very divided. There's some people that hate the regime so much that they were saying,
Yes.
oh, this will help, finish the job. And my response to them was, it's easy for you to say that when you're thousands of miles away and you're not in the streets of Iran having bombs rain down on you. Some people were saying, why aren't the people of Iran spilling into the streets and protesting and taking back the government? I said, because there's bombs coming overhead. You can't go out and
Yeah.
protest. So Unfortunately, war is a very, very ugly thing, and many, many lives get lost. And so I was definitely worried that it was going to escalate more and more, that other countries would get involved. And to your point, it really felt like we were very close to World War III. And I don't know if we're out of it yet. So I always say, I think the reason I love doing what I do and being around other people who are comedians and even people that are artists and the sort, I think that art and comedy brings people together and it humanizes people, whereas war dehumanizes people. So, yeah, that's my hope is that we can work more towards humanizing.
You're obviously in Australia touring and then New Zealand next. What can people expect from your show?
A lot of tears. No.
Yeah, because that's what we need more of, tears and trauma.
Yes, I sing sad songs for 2 hours. No, it's a fun night. It's a fun live comedy show. You know, we've done now some of your other cities here and had a blast, Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide. And it's just, you know, like I said, I love having a mixed crowd.
Yeah.
I love talking to my crowd, and I have stories to tell you myself. And my opening act, his name is Tehran. His father's Iranian, his mother is African-American,
His
black.
name is Tehran?
Yeah, his name, his
Okay.
Iranian father named him the capital of Iran
Yeah.
in America. So he's got a lot of issues.
Yeah, he does. Well, then he can join the Tehrangeles. There was
Yes.
an article in the Hollywood Reporter, people
Yeah,
from
yeah.
from Iran that live in Los Angeles in comedy. And I just have a show idea. I mean, you can take it.
Let's do it.
Charlie's Teherangels.
Charlie's Terrangels. Oh gosh. You know what? You should
Just
stick
like
to
workshop.
journalism.
Workshop it with me. Workshop it with me. I'm trying to help you
I
out.
thought you were gonna say Charlize Theron,
No.
like the Persian Charlize Theron.
Look, at least it'll give you a role in a movie that's not a terrorist.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to that. That's my whole goal.
Okay. Let's keep talking. My people will speak to your people. We'll work on a script.
Beautiful. Let's make it happen. We got to work on the title, but the rest we can do.
All right. Thanks so much. That was great. I'll see you on Saturday night.
See you Saturday night. Thank you for doing this.